Today's video, we're going to talk about why Google Ads is not spending its daily budget. Ugh. I know when this happens, it really just angers the hell out of you guys. You are making money with your ads, but it just isn't spending. I tell it I want to spend 100 a day, it spends 5 a day. And there's really good reasons for that, of which I'm going to cover here in this video here, so you can get unstuck and uncork that damn campaign so it will spend the 100 a day or eventually spend the 100 a day that you really wanted to spend, so you maximize your opportunity that you found on Google Ads, okay? This goes for search campaigns, display campaigns, YouTube campaigns, all of it technically. I'll cover all of it in today's video, but this is one of the most common questions that comes up at our agency and on this channel in the comment section, and what people want to know the most about. So it's not just you that has this issue. So I'll go into why it happens, and then more importantly, how to deal with it once it happens so you can actually fix it and get on to making the real freaking money that you want to make. Okay? Before I get into the content though, if you do not know who I am yet, I am Corey Zyman, owner of Guaranteed PPC, an online advertising agency that specializes in guaranteeing results for our clients. That is, we do not charge our clients management fees until we get them a certain minimum lift in the profitability up front in excess of the management fees that we charge. We're the only agency out there that offers such a thing, which should tell you something about the quality of the information that I'm sharing in today's video. So if you stay to the end of the video, I will have a couple case studies for you here as well. With that said, getting into it here, the reasons that you will have a campaign not spend what you wanted to spend is listed starting with the most common, most important first, and then I'm going to work my way down the list. Now, what I don't have on this list before I do actually get into it is something where your legitimate demand in your market is just not there. You can't put, I want to spend $1 million a day in a market where you're selling smelly socks and at a discount. Legitimately no demand there. Once that, or if you're talking about display ads, your pitch isn't good enough and you're just not going to ever be able to scale. Because what you're pitching, there's no legitimate demand for. Okay, so excluding this, assuming that you know there's demand already, which is what most of you guys have, why you're so pissed, because you know, hell, there's a hell of a lot of buyers out there that ultimately need new windows. How do I get this to spend more? And that's what I'm going to be covering with these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things on this list. So with that said, the number one on the list, most common issue that comes up is people have a low ad rank. Okay, so if you don't know what ad rank is yet, Google is going to score you as an advertiser and compare you or rank you against all the other advertisers in your space, especially with search ads, but also this applies to display ads, YouTube ads, where other people are advertising and trying to get in front of the same people for the same reasons as you. Google's going to give you this so-called ad rank based upon how good of a job you are doing as an advertiser in terms of your ad itself. That is, are people engaging with it at a high rate, meaning click-through rate, and your website or landing page if you're using one. They're going to score you based upon how well people interact with your page. In other words, did it help people out or did it not? Or in other words, does it get a high conversion rate or does it not? Okay, so with that said, when you start out advertising with Google and you have no or very little history with Google already, you cannot by default have a high ad rank. It takes time to build this up. Your ideal situation trying to make money with Google Ads is you do absolutely everything you could possibly do. You research everything you could research. You hire the best team to get you the best ad landing page setup for your market that you know for sure will beat your competition. Then you throw some ad money at what you have, knowing it's not going to make money for a while, to collect some data so the algorithm can learn what you got, and then you'll get a high ad rank, and only then can you start to make a profit. Google, even though you have the best setup, is only going to test you out a very small amount at first. We're talking like if there's 1,000 impressions a day for you to get down the road, if you have a high ad rank, you're going to start out getting 50 a day at the beginning while this testing is going on. Why? Because they don't want to push their guys out of the way that already have a high ad rank and that they know how they perform to get little old you in there. They will always be on the lookout for guys that can outdo the leading favorite guy that they have in your niche, but they're just not going to take a big risk on showing a shitty ad and a shitty landing page to their users because they know if they piss off their users, people aren't going to want to click on any ads in the future. So that's their number one goal, is to promote people who help their users out the most. Bidding is a second afterthought in today's market. And the algorithm doesn't make assumptions. It's going to slowly test you out. And if you've done everything right, now you have a high ad rank. Now you can actually get shown all the time. This is, when you start running search ads, a lot of times you won't see your ad at the top of Google for months itself. Or if you're advertising on a certain website or channel on YouTube, you're not going to see your ad show for months when you try to get a trigger for yourself because of this ad rank situation. And if you don't actually do as good as your competition, that is, you're not in the top 20% of advertisers in your niche market advertising currently, then you're never going to get shown very much. And the people you do get shown in front of are going to be people that are the least likely candidates to buy what you have, because Google could track everything that their users do going back to the last 20 years, and they know about the people who's likely to buy and who's not based upon their previous actions. So when you're not having a high ad rank, Google prefers to show your ad to that person who's not likely to convert. They're likely to show the guy with the highest ad rank because they want to encourage him to stick around as an advertiser. So just know that going in. And yes, it may not be appealing or appetizing to you to have to spend big money with somebody who knows ads backwards and forwards to set this up to have the highest ad rank once you eventually are tested, but you don't have any choice anymore. Google isn't just, hey, we're advertising on our keywords and either it works or it doesn't. It's the opposite of that. It's all run off an algorithm now, and it's all relative. Can you do better than your competition? If not, you're going to get relegated to, hey, we don't give a shit if this guy stays or leaves. We'll try to give him the traffic. If he'll eat it, we'll continue shitting down his throat for a while until he's willing to give up. And if he's willing to eat shit forever, we'll give him shit forever. Whereas the top guy, they're just hoping and praying that that guy does not go anywhere, because they're making the search engine a better place for their users in that niche field that you're in. So know that up front. Ad rank is the biggest factor. Now, you may have new campaigns, like I was mentioning with ad rank. If you're just starting out, you're not going to get where your campaign will spend very much because you're not proven yet. And no matter how good of setup you have, you're going to need thousands of clicks through your campaign before Google recognizes that you have a high ad rank and to fully run you. High competition. So ad rank is relative to your competition. Okay, more competition you have, that is number of competitors, the longer it's going to take to get a high ad rank, the harder it is going to be to get a high ad rank itself. And the more your competition is willing to spend on their setup, ad and landing page combination, the harder it is to get a high ad rank and to have a high spending campaign. So, because Google literally is going to score every single person in your niche that you're showing up next to or in rotation with, and the guy who is the best ad is going to get the most impressions. The guy that's second best is going to get the second most impressions, and so forth. So there's really no getting around hiring an ad expert now if your competition has a top ad expert, because you have no chance of getting very many impressions unless you actually know what to do. So, and there's two parts of that, by the way. You have to know what to do, and you got to be willing to do it. And I can tell you from experience, a lot of guys come to my firm at Guaranteed PPC and say, I want to hire you for consulting to know how to have the best ad and best landing page. And I tell them, I can tell you how to do it, but unless I do it myself, you're not going to have the best ad and landing page because there's nuance to it. Just like a guy who knows how to build a house can't tell you how to build a house and you're just going to run off, ooh, I'm going to build myself a house now. No, you're going to kill yourself is what you're going to do. You know, that whole saying, just smart enough to be dangerous, that's going to be the case. Now, if you have background knowledge, the advice I give can be good, or it could be good to evaluate whether what you're doing is going to work or not work. But to actually have the top campaign in a niche market where you have millions of dollars at stake, like let's say you're in a market where you're selling gold IRAs, and the winning campaign there is you're going to be able to make, if you dominate Google search and YouTube ads, you're going to make $10 million a year in profit, just nailing that and being the top guy in the space with full ad spend going and maxing everything out. Well, what do you think it's going to take to do that? You think it was going to take, $5 and a box of Cracker Jacks to make this work? I mean, come on. And anybody who's willing to work for you and not make any money, you have to question why that is, because there's so much value in somebody who actually knows how to make ads work in those competitive environments. They don't need to sell their time for cheap. What people want to do is find a cheap guy to do it, because they love paying cheap prices and they hate paying PPC people. And then they wanted to make millions of dollars. Your head's in the sky. It generally is not going to work unless you have low competition. If you're the only guy selling, polka dotted underwear in Texas, you don't need to have the top guy because it's not necessary anymore. You have top guys and not only just a lot of competition and heavy, smart competition, but there's a lot of money at stake, meaning there's more money for your competition to have invested in their setup, the more it's going to take for you to win it. And for that matter, I tell people that if you're trying to enter a market where you can make $10 million a year like that, getting your campaign to work, you're better off if you're starting out with little money to just pick a different niche market to enter. Sell replacement furnace filters that nobody gives a shit about, because even if you make that work, you're going to make 50 grand a year as a business owner. Make that work, make your 5 grand a month, and then use the 3 of the 5,000 to invest in another bigger campaign in a different market. And then once that's working, then do your Mac Daddy niche where you can make millions a year. That's a much easier road versus just going directly at the super highly lucrative market where you've got big money coming in, even investor cash coming in to get things to work. So the first 3 on the list here are all linked. Low ad rank is linked to new campaigns or campaign age, as it is linked to level of competition. So all 3 of those are on the top of the list, and they're all interconnected one way or another. Number 4 on the list, too many negative keywords. So if your campaign's not spending, it could just be because you have a blockage in there. The one way you know how to tell if that's the case is you do something called a keyword diagnosis report, where it will tell you if your keywords are eligible to run, or is there a negative keyword that's preventing it to run. You could Google that, the instructions for doing that. But every time I add negative keywords to an account, or at least a significant amount, I'm going to run a negative keyword diagnosis report to make sure I didn't accidentally block something. Because even now, today, even myself, it's easy to unintentionally do this. So that could be why your campaign's not quote unquote spending. You also could have something where you shouldn't be bidding on the terms itself, or it's a mismatched offer. A lot of guys, if they sell, like sales training services, they will advertise on a keyword like sales training books. Okay, you may say, well, somebody's looking for a book, they want sales training services, right? That's a good keyword to advertise on. Wrong again. So, the reason for that is because, at least when you're talking about Google search ads, display ads, YouTube, it's a whole different ball game. But it's also similar in that a buyer of a book isn't somebody who buys and spends 50 grand for sales training services or 20 grand or whatever it costs. Whole different buyer. And not only that, when you're talking about search ads specifically, they're looking for a book when they're searching for a book. They're not looking for you to ram your freaking services down their throat. Now, you could still monetize that search, but you can't monetize it the way that you monetize the person who's just looking for a service, sales training services. You got to come up with a different approach. In that particular case, like we had before, you offer information. Why? Because books are information, and that person's in market for information, and we can actually have a guide, even though they're looking for a book, it's at least close to what they're looking for, a free guide, so they can actually read what it is that the top sales guy out there knows about sales, how to make more sales. And then when they read that guide, they download it, you immediately call the person up while they're reading it, because there's tools where if somebody fills out a form on your site, it can immediately feed into a system that automatically calls your salesperson. And then you could say, hey, I just noticed you picked up my guide. I was just wondering if you had any questions about what you're reading. And then you get them talking. Then you could flip them into a service customer. Whereas if you went directly at them with the service, it wouldn't work. So you have to, once you start getting into targeting other terms other than the obvious buyer terms, sales training services, sales training companies, you have to be able to mix up your approach, make a different offer for them. And most people, they'll try to target those people not looking for their offer directly, try, crash and burn, fail, and then give up. Whereas what they should have did was ask, how can we transition this person who's looking just for information into a buyer by first giving them information first? Buyer's guide, products in your industry ranked, which is similar to a buyer's guide, obviously, go that route with it. So if your campaign ain't spending, it may be because what you're offering isn't the right thing for what they're searching for. Or if you're targeting people on YouTube looking for sales training books, it's the same thing. Why go at them with an ad for sales training services when you can go at them with an information approach and do the same thing as I just talked about you can do on Google search, trying to flip people looking for information into service customers, which is an actual unique situation that we ran into before in that particular market. How we monetize people outside of the general envelope of people looking for services by itself, which generally speaking, you're going to make 10 times as much money going after people looking for information in that market and similar markets, because there's a hell of a lot more people looking for information and one-time help at the time, even though one-time help can easily turn into long-term help, even though they just don't know it when they initially start searching. And so you're going to settle for 10% of what you could get otherwise if you don't understand how to monetize these people that are doing their research while they're doing research, instead of just waiting for them ready to buy. And for that matter, if you're just going to advertise to people ready to buy, you're going to be slugging it out with all the other top guys. And the cost per lead is going to be high. And the ROI is going to be lower versus getting in with them while they're doing information, getting information, looking for information. You can actually get a much better ROI because you're not directly competing against anybody at that particular stage, or barely anybody. So if you come at people with the wrong thing, you're going to have low ad rank because it's not what they're looking for at the time. You monetize that by making something more relevant for that user. So that's number 5 on the list. And then number 6, the last one on the list that I wanted to mention here about why your campaign does not spend or isn't spending more is because you have a health related or fringe offer. So lately, anything having to do with like health supplements, alternative health treatments, the campaigns won't spend because Google has kind of like put a quash on it. And I think this has to do with somebody up top. Google maybe have gotten some money from the health pharmaceutical industry, something, I don't know, to where ads that had more impressions before don't have them now. And it's because of what's being promoted specifically. There's some stuff that where your ad doesn't specifically get disapproved, in other words, but your impressions are going to be limited because they don't like the niche, okay? Anything to do with healthcare is the main one. But if you are in a market where it's kind of like Fringe, you're offering some marijuana related product, and even though it doesn't have THC in it, Google can hamper your impressions. So that's just another thing to potentially think about as to why your campaign's not spending more money. With all that said, I've mentioned on other videos before, if you watch this channel, about how things take time to work. Even if you could spend more money on your campaign today, and if you're spending $50 a day today, and you could go to $150 a day, you wouldn't necessarily want to do it because it's going to screw up the quality of leads you're getting, or the ROI will go down because the algorithm needs time to learn how to handle all that additional spend. To give you a great perspective of how much you should be spending more on an ongoing basis, scaling things up, it should be more like 10% a month, which a lot of people, they just don't like to hear that. They want to make millions in their e-commerce business right away in a year, 18 months. And I can tell you 98% of our e-commerce companies are not scaling to millions of dollars in a year or 18 months. We're getting it, and we're going from 200,000 a year if we're starting out that low. Occasionally we have in the past that we're going to 400,000, then 800,000, then 1.3, and then 1.7, and it scales up like that. And it takes 7 to 10 years to go from that 200,000 to 5 million. And you got to just slug it out, every day, showing up on time, going through the motions, consistently keep improving your website, so on and so forth. And if you raise your spend too much, you could send your campaigns into learning mode, which is why the ROI goes down when you raise it too quickly. So my advice to you in general, as is I take my own advice here, you should raise your spend about 10% a month. That way your campaigns don't go back into learning mode, and you get a nice smooth rise in your sales and profitability without it going up, down, and then up again, and then down. Particularly useful if you're relying on the revenue from your ad account to fund your business, because you can't take a 50% drop in your profitability, even though once the account recovers, you could be making 50% more money than you were before. So just take my advice, go slow about it. And then if your campaign is just not spending more, maybe a month goes by and your campaign doesn't spend anymore, even though you're doing everything right. After 90 days, if your campaign's not spending anymore, then it could be one of these things. Or if this doesn't help you, then what you need to do, going back to the ad rank idea here, you need to figure out a way to have higher click-through rates on your ads or higher conversion rates on your landing page. Everything in terms of optimization on Google Ads is going to be down to that same thing. How do I get higher click-through rates? How do I have higher conversion rates? Higher click-through rates is easy because you usually just look at your search terms report and break out certain search terms you're not targeting as an individual keyword, write individual better ad copy for it, and boom, you have more click-through rate right away. Or you could just hire a really good copywriter to write you better ad copy, and which that person should study all the reviews of your competitors, find out what people want to hear, what they don't want to hear the most of all, talk to your salespeople, and build in an ad that actually has keywords in there that are going to trigger people and get them to click. Or, maybe if you have a national service company, like a product design company, you could set up separate campaigns for each state so that the user can see the name of their state in the ad, so that when they're looking for product design company, your ad is the only ad that says Nebraska in it that they see. Even though you're not in Nebraska, it makes them want to click the ad. We'd use that technique all the time. And then landing page wise or site wise to get higher conversion rates, there's so many things that I've talked about on this channel about how to make a website convert better, from adding additional product comparison videos, basically adding your average review rating on the review platforms there, and a bunch of other stuff, which, it's not the easiest to do, but if you want to know how to get to the next level with your spend, this is what you got to do. And if you either, pull up your britches, pull up your panties and go ahead and do it, learn how to do it and do it, or you hire somebody to do it and then you pay them and you take less margin up front because you have to pay somebody else to do it for you, but you got your time. This is exactly what we do at our agency for clients. So we not only get your click-through rate to go up by, refining your ads, like I talked about, as well as help you make the conversion rate on your site better by helping you understand where the bottlenecks are on it. Look at things like pricing strategy, give you the tips you need for that, landing page design, that kind of thing. Make landing pages for clients. So if you're interested in that, reach out to me at guaranteedppc.com. We also sell ad templates. If we've already worked in your niche market before, you could buy the winning ad templates from us that work for your market. The ads, the campaigns, the landing pages, all of it that work well in your market to get the results we've already got in the market, you can get for yourself using that template. And we can tell you what we charge for the template as well as the results we got from it already by reaching out to us. As long as you're in a different country or city than our client, then you can use that template. So for that matter, like for an e-commerce capacity, you could literally take a template to sell a product that sells well in one country, start selling it in another, and have a turnkey business because the template works so well. Got people doing exactly that. So anyway, if you're interested in that, reach out to me. With all that said, there's a lot of information that I talked about here about ad rank, negative keywords. The best bet is to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already to learn this stuff, because it comes straight from the horse's mouth on this channel. I spend 40 hours a week doing ad strategy at our firm to give you the free information I'm giving you here. Most of the information that you're going to find on YouTube and online about how to make ads work is given to you by people who don't run ads. I can promise you this is the case. So if you're going to pay attention to anything, you want to pay attention to the information on this channel first. You should also check out my blog while you're at it. If you like the channel, you'll like my blog even more probably. You can find that at guaranteedppc.com/blog. The blog has the strategies I'm using to guarantee clients results at our firm with screenshots, with the instructions to do them. You should definitely like that if you check that out as well. If you have any questions, leave me a comment below in the comment section. I get back to anybody who leaves me a comment in the comment section usually within 24 hours time. And if that doesn't cut it and you got a more advanced question, potentially consider reaching out to our firm and having a 30-minute coaching call with me, and I can go over everything you're doing, find the bottlenecks and what's stopping your ads from scaling to the next level, get your campaign spending more, and after looking at all of your business, your product strategy, your pricing strategy, all of it, I'll let you know, generally speaking, every time what the basic bottleneck you're experiencing and get you on the right track with your ads again. So with that said, I'll wrap it up with that though. That pretty much goes over everything that we were talking about here. We've sold house paint, and in terms of the rate of increase in ad spend, it was about 10% a month in terms of the rate of increase in ad spend over the 10 years roughly we've been with them now. Increase in daily ad spend on a campaign, what we're doing, we had a wakeboarding supplies company. On average, it's about the same there. So this is very typical in terms of increase in spend. For services, we'll raise spend even faster. But even with that, we're still only going to be raising the ad spend on the campaigns by a good 20-30% every month. And it's going to plateau after 6 to 12 months. with that. Whereas e-commerce, we can typically keep increasing forever by using the techniques I talk about on this channel. So that gives you a general idea of how quickly your ad spend should spend for you in your case. Again, if you have any questions about your specific market, you can always reach out to me in the comments. I'll wrap it up with that. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
Remember when I said search ads was important during this video? Well, this video here tells you how to do it.